before where I've done a live stream with another person. So I'm really excited for this. I'm like waiting on my other monitor here to make sure that things are actually starting because I'm not starting the stream from my own device. I've never done that before either. But yeah, okay, it's actually looking great. Perfect. All right, we're good to go.
Cool,
All
man.
right. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our next live stream here. Ray is, I guess, maybe I'm more of the guest on his live stream than the other way around, but I've never done a live stream before with another content creator before. I'm really, really looking forward to this. Ray, he does a lot of things around AI coding like me, experimenting with different workflows. He worked for Apple for, what was it, 12 years, Ray, right? And
Yes.
I'll let you introduce yourself more in a little bit as well. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to this because we're going to be synthesizing ideas together around AI coding workflows for this stream. And specifically, what we're going to be focusing on is the Anthropic's new harness for long running agents. So it's something that I created content for on my channel last week where I showed what it looked like to have Claude through the Claude Agent SDK running for 24 hours straight, coding an application. And I've taken it even further. So I built my own kind of flavor on top of it, inspired by some things that Ray's been cooking up with his workflows as well. So we're going to show that today. And the main thing that I want to show you guys in the stream, what Ray and I want to show you, is just how you can think about these principles. Like, sure, Anthropic built this really cool harness for long-running agents that you can go and use yourself right now. But more importantly, I want you to learn with us from this harness. How can we take these ideas and apply them to our own workflows and systems for AI coding to make them more powerful and able to do things for a long extended period of time. Not that you always want to let your coding assistant rip through something for 24 hours, but it's cool that we can do that. And I think that more and more as we build our systems and have more and more powerful LLMs and tools, we're going to get to the point where we'll be comfortable, even if it's like creating a proof of concept, but letting it do that for like 24 hours straight. And so I really do see this as the future of agentic engineering. And so that's what we get to explore together today. And the application in particular that I have integrated on top of this harness that we're going to be focusing on a lot today is Linear. So for those of you who don't know Linear, it is a task management platform, kind of similar to like Asana or Jira. And it's something that Ray has used a lot in the past. Personally, I've not used it before, but I wanted to add it in for this live stream because I think it's just like a good mesh of what Ray and I are working on in tandem and like now bringing it together to you. And so, yeah, it's going to be really cool. I got some things to like showcase ahead of time because I already tested some stuff before this stream. So we'll get into that and then we'll do a live coding session where we'll kick off the assistant. We'll have it like create all these tasks in a linear and start knocking them off one by one. And I'll explain the principles behind it as well, just so that you get like a really clear grasp of what's going on. And there's just a lot of really good takeaways from this harness that Anthropic has created. And so, yeah, that's enough of me talking here. I want to hand it over to Ray here to introduce himself and share more about like what he's got in store for us for the live stream as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. It's our first time kind of doing a live stream totally on Riverside and stuff. So if you guys have any technical difficulties or anything, just drop the comments right now, letting us know how the sound is doing and everything like that. We're just kind of making sure that everything's going and streaming to you guys okay. I would imagine everything's going pretty good. And so, yeah, for those who don't know, I used to be an engineer at Apple for like over 12 years and stuff. And now I've been playing around with AI agents. So for those who aren't familiar, I do a lot of live streaming where I'm building live. So I'd like to build my apps live, learn on the fly with you. So usually when the latest models come out, I immediately start using them to ship features. And doing that live is how I've learned to do prompting and AI coding. And so we feel like this is a great space for everyone to kind of hang out and ask some questions. And this is probably a really good time if you've been kind of thinking about, okay, should I start trying this stuff out? There's something that is happening right now in AI coding where people are able to run these things for longer and longer periods of time. And Anthropic's blog basically is showcasing that it's going to be able to run it for 24 hours or something like that. So can we harness that power and do that? And I'm excited to talk to Cole because he's pretty much at the forefront of doing this type of stuff in his communities. And there's so many people who have hit me up saying, yo, you got to check out what he's doing, man. This guy is like really going all in. So This is going to be nice because as an engineer, I like want to ask more questions. I'm super curious, and I want to kind of go down this rabbit hole with you, Cole. And yeah, I want to see if we can kind of kick stuff off. I know there's a little bit of sync issues with my audio. People have actually commented that I look like AI. That's something that I'm trying to resolve right now with Riverside because of the frames per second. My output is 60 frames per second on my camera, and the Riverside I think cuts it down to 24 if I'm
Hmm.
not premium. So I need to figure out what that issue is. But aside from that, I think everything should be okay. So Cole, I want to go ahead and hand it off to you, see if you can kind of share the screen and take us through this type of thing. What are we going to be building today? What's it kind of look like so far? And then kind of work ourselves backwards. Also, Tech Friend, huge shout out to Tech Friend, kind of coming on the stream here. Hopefully, I can show the comments. Yes. Okay. Cool. Yay! It's so fun that I can actually
Good.
show the
Looks
comments.
good. Nice.
This is kind of answering that question about the audio sync. So if you have any comments, let them know. We're going to go ahead and just drop them in here. And excited to be building with you, man. This is so cool.
Sweet. Yeah, I have been looking forward to this all week. So, yeah, Ray and I have been talking about doing this for, I think, like a couple of weeks now. And shout out to Scott. He's the one who introduced us initially. So, yeah, he follows both of our channels a lot, and he's here in the Dynamous community as well. And so, yeah, he's like, you know what? These guys should do a live stream together. And so he CC'd both of us in an email, and now we're off to the races, and here we are today. So I've been looking forward to this. And even to the point where like I created something specifically because of Ray, and that's the linear integration that I was talking about. So yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then we can dive into things here. Someone in my
Perfect.
chat, Ray, said that my volume is a little low,
Okay.
which here I'll just kind of move my microphone a little bit closer to my face here.
Okay.
So yeah, when you guys see me looking over at my other monitor, it's because I'm looking at the chat quick, which I try not to let that distract me, but also I do want to make sure that I answer questions as they come up. So yeah, all right, let me go ahead and share. I moved my microphone as close to my face as I can. So yeah, I think that should be good.
Okay.
So share my screen. All right, cool. How does that look for you, Ray?
Yeah. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Here we go. Perfect.
All right, sweet. So yeah, the article from Anthropic that inspired everything today is this one right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat for my stream here. Also, if you just Google Anthropic effective harness for long-running agents, you'll find it as the first result in Google or whatever. But yeah, I would highly recommend reading through this article if you are really, really curious, want to dive into things. Because obviously that's what I did, right? When I first read this article, typically I skim through things initially because there's just so much information these days, especially in the AI space. And so I skimmed through this, but yeah, it caught my attention. So I sat down, I read the entire thing. It comes with this whole quick start that they have as an open source GitHub repo. And yeah, it inspired me to run this thing myself and then make some additions on top of it that I'm going to be showcasing with Ray here in our stream. And so what they've built in this article here, like what they're showcasing, I want to explain how it works today. So I've got this Excalibur diagram that I also showed in my last YouTube video, just to help you guys like understand the principles behind this. Because like I said, taking away principles more than just like, here's how this specific harness works, I think is the most powerful takeaway. So we'll go over that. And then I want to give you guys a little bit of a teaser of what it built when I tested this before the stream. So that's what we're looking at here. And then finally, we'll run this live. And so we'll watch as it creates all of the tasks in linear and it kicks off the different agents to go and knock things out one by one. It's really, really cool to watch it live. And this is the kind of thing that we could run for 24 hours straight. Now, we are not going to stream. Ray and I are not going to stream for 24 hours. I'm sorry.
Come on, man. Let's do it, Mr.
Yeah.
B style. We're going to
Right,
stream,
yeah.
and every hour we're going to give away.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, $10,000 giveaway every hour. No,
Every
maybe, yeah, maybe someday. I think that actually would be cool. I have thought about doing like a live stream marathon before, just to like see how long I can go before I like collapse at my desk. But that is not for today. And
Okay.
so we won't see the full application get built out, but you guys will see everything you need to see to watch it all happen, in real time, where it'll create all the tasks in linear. We'll see the first few coding agents get kicked off and assigned to some of these tasks. So we'll see all that happen. So all the principles we will cover. And that's, like I said, the more important takeaway versus you seeing the full end product. And that's also why I want to show this here. Because then like, yeah, this isn't from our run today, but it is what it created when I ran the same thing. So yeah, and speaking of running the same thing before, that is the latest video on my YouTube channel, which I'm hovering my mouse over right here. So you can see the little preview, like even shows the Excalibur diagram that'll cover today. So a little bit of this is review if you have seen this video already. But what I didn't do in this video is the linear integration. And so before it was managing all the tasks and things just in a JSON file locally. And so like this file right here. So I'll kind of talk about this in a bit as well, and like how that has evolved into linear, and then like what I changed to make it work with linear. And the biggest reason I'm excited about this, besides the fact that Ray just really loves linear, is I think it's really powerful having our agents do their work where we also do our work. And so if we're going to have these agents run for a really, really long time, we need to have observability and being able to like add human in the loop, but like we can't interrupt it because it's set up as a process to just run in the background. So we need some way to communicate to it. And we can do that by managing the tasks in linear. Like I can click into this task, or maybe this is a bad example because it's already done. I can click to one that isn't done yet, and I can edit the description. If I want to change what it builds for this task, I can do that. So then when the next agent comes and picks it up, then it takes in my feedback. And like this is the kind of thing that I think we really need if we are going to get to the point where we actually trust our agents to run for 24 hours straight or beyond. And so like right now I would call what we're doing here experimental, but it's going to get to the point over the next year or two where this just becomes less and less experimental and more like how people actually work with their coding agents. So we're on the forefront here.
Yeah, I think another thing why I started to check out linear was there's someone in my Discord, his name is Coriolis. He kind of brought that up to me because he is a chief technical officer and does a lot of work like this. And he's working on massive, massive projects. And so he's the one that kind of put me on to this whole workflow. I'm like, wow, he says it's very token efficient because you're not having to read and write out all these different things. You just hand that off to the MCP. But there's like, because he's an experienced technical person, also project management background, it kind of makes sense if you're actually going to track it in your head, but also other agents, because agents are trained from human beings and human work, they naturally see a system like this and can already know, what logical pieces they need to grab. And then because this is already a pretty established framework and big professional companies from all of your Fortune 500 people are using linear. This is not an ad. It feels like an ad. It probably should be. Sponsor us, please.
Right. Yeah,
but like,
they're not sponsoring.
yeah, I know, right? It's really interesting for monitoring the work, and you can do this on your phone. You can do this in various places. Other agents can even spawn out and then check the work and then grab pieces of work. And you don't have to make up your own system for this. It's kind of already pretty well established. So that's kind of another advantage of why, like this insight from Coriolis was extremely, useful in my workflow. I was like, okay, this is really interesting here. And why we want to do this. And it's so cool to see you kind of adopt it here. This is really awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ray. I'm excited to get into this. Yeah, and one more thing before I really dive into the article and explaining how the harness works. Someone mentioned in my chat, can Archon use linear? Ray, I don't know if you've heard of Archon before. It's an open source project that I started earlier this year that I've been putting a lot of effort into. Maybe I'll pull this up really quickly because there's a lot of ties between Archon and what we're doing here. So this is like my command center for AI coding.
Whoa.
And there's two main components to this. It's a place for us to curate our knowledge for our coding assistants to search, like the libraries that we're using. And then it's also the place for task management. And so we have a kind of Kanban board, Kanban board that looks very much like this. And it has an MCP server, just like the linear MCP server. It can move around tasks in real time. And so, yeah, a lot of like what people are seeing here, if they've seen Archon before, and I know you haven't, Ray, and a lot of your viewers, so just like kind of giving a quick, or like making a quick parallel here, I built something kind of like this as a custom solution that's more like AI optimized. And so there definitely are some parallels to be drawn. The reason that I want to do linear specifically is because like, yeah, Archon is really cool, but like I want to integrate it with an application that people are already using that has all these features that like is way more than Archon, because it's like, a $1 billion company building a task management solution that has a lot more So yeah, I have had definitely ideas of how I could like build Archon into different software like Linear or Jira or Asana.
Mhm.
And so like maybe that will come in the future, but also just like a lot of decisions of like where do we want to take Archon next. And so anyway, I just wanted to mention
Cool.
that really quick because I know a lot of you might be curious if you've seen both before. But right now we're working in Linear because Linear is something that like people already do their work in.
Yeah.
Like Ray, people that he knows, people I know as well. And like I already do my work in something. I use Asana a lot for my task management, and so it's very similar to this. So yeah, any other thoughts you have, Ray, before we dive in here? Because I'll just kind of start by explaining the harness once we're ready.
I think we're good. Yeah, excited to go in, and yeah, just gonna get a quick check for the chat. I know we're kind of doing this live stream thing. I'm trying Riverside. This is not AI Ray, by the way. This is me. If you're kind of wondering, I'm trying to get my stuff synced up. I'm using Riverside, so there's a little bit of delay with my lips. And my speaking, but that's okay. We're going to kind of deal with it. Cole's going to be basically driving this whole thing. And if you're kind of just tuning in on my side of thing, we're going to take a look at this effective harness for long running agents. Anyone who's just kind of popping in, this is something that I saw McKay Wrigley actually talk about, which was really interesting on Twitter. If you don't follow in the last 24 hours, it's going to get a lot of, you're probably going to see really big people start commenting on his thing. But basically, he spent a really long time in the last 2 weeks trying to get these things to run autonomously for as long as possible. And he said he was going to release a bunch of videos on it. Cole has already kind of been down this track. This is something that I've been wanting to get into, and I'm hoping that this is going to be something where all of us are going to be able to participate. So any questions you have, Cole's going to walk us through basically how to build this type of system. But this is like something that you shouldn't really be scared to run into. Just because you see us doing it, we would highly experiment. Highly encourage you to go to the blog post right now. Maybe follow along with us during this live. Ask some questions. Get this stuff set up. You're going to probably have way more questions, and you're going to say, okay, maybe take one workflow that you're currently doing by hand and see if you can hand it off to an agent like this, right? Right now, we're going to build an app, but then maybe is there a workflow that you do all the time, like by hand? These agents are actually quite good at looking at your screen and figuring out what to do next, and then maybe controlling some other types of systems. So I want you to kind of start, to take this in your mind and start thinking about this and maybe see what's kind of around the corner here. And by us walking through it live and you walking through it live with us, this is going to be a great forum for us to interact. So we'll have a section towards the end where you can ask us any questions and we'll be able to answer them AMA style and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of is what it is. And appreciate everyone's patience through this, and excited to see you cook, Cole.
Sweet. Yeah. All right. And like Ray said, like don't be intimidated by this because even if it seems like a lot going on here, because it is pretty involved, and I'll try to break things down the best as I can, even if there's just a couple of principles that you get out of this harness where you're like, oh man, like I want to apply this to my own system. Like that's what we really encourage you to do. So again, I've already said this, but it is worth repeating. It's taking the ideas from this that I want as the main takeaway for you and what Ray wants as well, instead of like you trying to like fully understand everything in this harness and know exactly how to use like this specific tool from Anthropic. Because in the end, this is more of a experimental teaching tool than anything, right? Like Anthropic is not building this into Claude Code or anything. It's just some of their research that they're doing to continue to prove that they're on the cutting edge, right? And that's what we're doing as well. And so the repository that I have for today is fully open source. So I'm going to put this as a link in my stream chat as well. And you could do the same if you want, Ray.
Yeah, if you pop it into
I
the studio chat, then I'll be able to send it over to the.
Yes. All right. Did that just now. Perfect. Cool. So yeah, I took the harness and I kind of just created my own fork, right? Like my own version of Anthropic's harness, where I changed the prompts and I added in the linear MCP server. So I made it so that it works in linear. And so I want to start by explaining how the base harness works and then talk about how I've adjusted things to work with linear. Because I also think this is a really good lesson of just how we can take someone else's work and adopt it for our own system. Like I said, the original harness is using a JSON file to keep track of all these features that it's mapping out for this very long running task. And so now I'm kind of adopting it for my own system. I mean, this might be more Ray's system because I don't use linear myself, but just showing you guys a demo of how you can do this kind of thing. And so the main problem that we're addressing here, that Anthropic is addressing, is agents, they struggle when they work across many different context windows. And this is a big engineering challenge that it's not new, and it's something that I have been developing solutions for months and months at this point. And so it's not like anything here is revolutionary, but like I said, there are just a lot of really smart ideas to take away from how Anthropic is tackling this specifically. And so you think about strategies like memory compression, or how when we start a new conversation with an agent, we can have it like read certain files in a code base to understand like what we built so far and what's coming next. And so some people, they have kind of like a change log they build up, or maybe you rely on like the get change log, or you have like certain files that you have it read as far as like the plans that have been executed at this point. There are a lot of different strategies that people have to make it so that like we can kind of pick up work in a new context window very quickly. And so that a lot of the ideas that you all have probably been experimenting with already, if you're using AI coding assistants, these are just taken to the extreme for this demo here so that we can run agents for a very long time. And so the main thing that we're thinking about here is how can we create this massive set of requests. Like we see here in linear, we have dozens and dozens of tasks that we have to knock out in order to build this application. So how do we define these tasks and then actually like handle them with many different sessions? And we need to somehow like carry over context between these different sessions. We can't have one run for too long because large language models always hallucinate when their context window gets very filled. And so we have to like define these breakpoints for like, okay, we just build in like one feature or just a couple of features. And then we cut the agent off, we start a new window, and then we have some kind of way to like carry over all of the most important context to that next window, right? Like that's essentially what they're doing with this harness here. And to like really help you understand how this works, I have this diagram that I teased earlier that I just want to go over really quickly here that explains how the entire system works and the whole idea of like running many different agents in a loop and like having these kinds of artifacts and strategies for sharing context between them. And so I'll kind of zoom in at the start here. Because this, by the way, this whole demonstration today is more for greenfield development, as in like starting a project completely from scratch. Now you could definitely adapt this whole harness to work for an existing code base, because instead of creating 200 or 50 whatever new test cases or features for a brand new project, it would just be like for what you want to build on top of what you already have. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to be focusing more on building something from scratch, because the very first file that they have in their harness is the app spec. A lot of you might know this as a PRD. It's really just like that high level file that outlines the scope of work for your application. Like once everything is built out that you define here, that means your app is done, or at least the MVP, the minimum viable product of your app, is done. And so this is the primary context that goes into our very first session. And this is our initializer agent. And so we have an entire agent dedicated to creating the feature list before we get into any of the coding. So you can see that session 2, the second session is where we start with the coding. And so that the only job of the initializer agent is to create this feature list JSON file. This is the one that I was showing earlier that outlines all of the features that we have to build out based on that app spec. And then it even has the steps to take, and I can zoom in a little bit more here. It has the steps to take in order to like validate that this feature is working. And so this whole system also has the Puppeteer MCP server built in. And so our agent is able to spin up a browser autonomously, and it can navigate it. So it'll like start the back end, start the front end, go visit the website and try sending in requests, or like, whatever website we're building, application we're building here. It'll interact as a user interacts with the site to verify things. And then only once all these steps pass will it mark this feature as done and then move on to the next one. And then this is exactly the process that I moved over to linear that I'll explain in a bit. But like I said, I want to start by covering how the harness works, but without my additions on top.
So did you make that feature list by hand, or you just kind of prompted an agent and like yapped a whole bunch of things, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so the feature, that's a really good question, Ray. Yeah, please feel free to keep interjecting with questions to keep
Yeah.
me on track here. So
No, it's okay.
yeah, no, yeah, I appreciate
Because
it.
sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna write this by hand for sure. Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah. So I did not write this by hand. Definitely not. So it's all in the prompt for the initializer agent. And so when the initializer agent begins, here, let me open up this prompt in preview so it looks better. This is sent into the initializer agent, and this dictates everything that it does. And so basically what we tell it to do is read our app spec. This is the one thing that we would create ourselves, or maybe use an AI coding assistant to help us create. And then based on the app spec, it creates the feature list JSON. And we define here the exact format for the JSON. So we don't ever touch anything here. Maybe we validate some of these things, but also because this is like 200 plus test cases long, we're probably not going to do much validation. This is all experimental anyway. We just want to see like how long it can run. So we pretty much just let it generate this based on our app spec, which, by the way, the app spec that they have, this is the default one that comes with the Anthropic harness, just as kind of like their demo for you if you want to like just take their prompt and run with their prompt. And so what we're building today and what they have as their basic demo is a Claude.ai clone. And that's the little teaser I had for you earlier. Like this application right here is running, you can see on localhost. Like this is what I had this harness build in a previous execution. And so this entire prompt, it's extremely detailed because obviously we have to have a lot of context to be able to pull out, 200 plus test cases. And so if you want to, if you want to build something entirely different from the Claude.ai clone, all you have to do is change this app spec file. So you could build your own website, like a portfolio website. You could try building a SaaS application. I don't care. It doesn't care. You just have to edit this however you want. And then within the initializer prompt, we're telling it to like read this and then make all the features based on that. So it's entirely flexible. Like you can put whatever you want here.
wait, hold
Nothing's like
up. So
hard
you're
code.
saying that if I want to create a new app, the structure that is currently laid out in this type of thing here
Mm-hmm.
is something that we can give to Claude Opus as an example and say, here's
Yes.
a spec that I normally like to use.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my yapped idea, one paragraph long, whisper flow or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Please go ahead and see if you can start to build the structure for this as my prompt, right? And then ask me follow-up questions because there's a lot of stuff that's probably going to be missing in my initial request. And then maybe do subsequent calls. Like I have two MCPs I really like, and one of them is Exa code and the other one is ref tools. So then I could just have it then go search for documentation to help fill in this spec document, which the spec document, once filled out, is your pretty much, I think it's the thing that the agent will always kind of anchor to, right? So as it goes through for very long sessions and creates new agents as part of the architecture, it's probably going to keep referencing that spec and where it's at. And then that's kind of, in essence, that's probably like the map, right? For if you want to travel
Mm-hmm.
across America, you need a map. And I think that's an interesting concept. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing how long it is. It looks very
Yeah.
intimidating at first, but once you think about, once you
It
have the
is.
template, then you can kind of move forward from there, right?
Right. Yeah. And so I really appreciate you saying that because I actually did exactly what you described earlier. I gave Opus 4.5 this spec as context, and I said, like, this is the format I want to use, but then, like, here's a brain dump of another application that I want to create. And so I had it create a version of the app spec, but specific to a different application. And so everything looks pretty similar here. It has the same kind of like XML prompting, but it's for a completely different application. And so never feel like you have to write this entire thing out from scratch. It can just be like, here's the template, here's my brain dump, and now please mesh these two things together. And then this is what we send into our initializer agent. And so kind of
Wow.
like the map, like you said, Ray, that is the feature list. So surprisingly, and like maybe it would actually be better to reference the app spec, but it actually never goes back to the app spec. The initializer agent will create the feature list based on the app spec, and then this is the source of truth for all the agents, the coding agents going forward.
I see. Yeah, because in my scenario, what I was thinking was like, for those who are just kind of coming along here, this is probably going to, these parts are probably the most important parts in your app building is defining what you're going to build, because the agents are really good you can almost think of the agents as like having zero memory, right? So they have all this
Hmm.
space knowledge, but they don't really have a lot of configuration details, and nor do they really need to know a lot of things. We've learned over time, because their context windows are so small, if you just give them a very well defined task, they will execute. And if they have something to verify against, that
Yep.
loop of the agent doing that is kind of the secret sauce. And that's kind of what we're doing here, in essence, with what Cole's outlining. It's like, this is part of the template. Anthropic's models have been trained to follow these instructions. That's why you have these weird brackets, in their XML structure for this type of thing. And it just so happens that if you can also, say, explain your idea, give it an example, it's going to fill in that type of details, using your idea. You'll obviously want to review it, but like make sure that all the spec meets your needs. But I think this is the biggest unlock. And if you spend the most amount of time in this area, it's going to probably pay off a lot more than later on wasting a bunch of tokens. And I have a couple follow-up questions here. It's like,
Yeah.
if you're using this agent harness, can I use my Claude Max account, or do I have to pay API costs to build this type of thing?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So you can use your subscription. You don't have to use API credits. But this is actually something I added in myself. So if you look at the repository here, not the one that I sent with the linear built on top, because I have the instructions here for using your subscription. But if you look at the original one from Anthropic that they linked to in the article, they have you use your API key. This is like the first gripe that I have when I saw this. I'm like, okay, man, I have to build something myself because I'm not going to use my API key for this. It would be literally hundreds of dollars just to have this run for 24 hours. And
Wow.
so I'm using my Max subscription. And
Okay.
so that's one of the edits that I made on top. So it's actually very easy. If you have the Claude Code CLI installed on your machine, you can run the setup token command. That'll give you a long running OAuth token that lasts for a year. And so now when we call Claude Code programmatically using the Claude Agents SDK, so we're actually like using Claude Code in our Python code for this harness, but it'll be using our subscription, not our
Okay.
API key.
Oh, that's brilliant. I just want a big shout out to this person that says pure gold. Thanks, guys. Yeah. And I think another person had a comment here. It says like, great topic. Cole made a great video on that a few days ago. How many runs has he tried since the video? And he tried to use work trees to work on multiple tasks at the same time. Just kind of curious about that there.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I have only done one more run since that video on Wednesday. I was working on some other stuff. So I do both like AI coding and AI agents on my channel. And so I've been doing some things like actually building some AI agents and some RAG agents over the past few days. So I've kind of like swapped over to that. So I haven't done too much more experimentation with this. I haven't done anything with work trees either. Um, However, I have been doing a lot of stuff with work trees, just not with this harness. I've been doing some things with work trees for an application in the Dynamous community, something that I'm working on for remote agentic coding. So that's a very separate thing. I have not tried work trees for this harness in particular.
That's
And
cool.
then,
Yeah, I'll have to
um,
stay subscribed, folks. Make sure you share this with a friend. If you're watching right now, share this with some other friends, people who are currently building with us, because that's kind of what we do around here. Like to share this information before we proceed. Big shout outs to Git Max. This is a super interesting repo. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, let's go ahead and kind of dig in further. Yeah.
Sweet, yeah. And someone in my chat asked, what does a harness mean? Is it some new IDE?
Mm,
And yeah, very simply, a harness is just think of it like a layer on top of your coding assistance that defines the process, right? So we have the initializer. It creates, and I kind of want to like finish explaining this diagram here. It creates all of the features that we need to build out. It also creates this script that our coding agents can run going forward to spin up the entire website. So like this script will start the back end, it'll start the front end, and then it is able to validate things like actually running the application going forward. And then the initializer agent will also scaffold out the project, kind of creating the boilerplate for the application, the front end, or whatever it is, and then it'll initialize the Git repository. And so all these things it's doing is just to get it to the point where once we run the first coding agent, it's able to dive immediately into understanding the code base, like what we have right now, and then building that first feature or that next feature for all of the sessions that we have going forward. So this N here, it just means that we don't know how many sessions are going to be. It's just we're going to go until the application is done, and all of the features that we have in the feature list are marked as passes. Or with my integration with linear that I'll talk about, we go until we have all of the features in the done column. And then the other thing that it creates that is really cool is this Claude progress text file. So let me go to that really quick here. So the Claude progress text file, this is where the coding agent will put a summary of what it last did, so that the next coding agent that runs, because remember, it starts in a brand new conversation window, it's totally fresh, it can read this to quickly catch itself up to speed on what the last coding agent did. Or for the first coding agent, it gets to, understand what did the initializer agent do for me. And so this is like the source of truth of what just happened, because oftentimes what just happened is going to guide the next agent for what it should do next. So this is a really critical file as well. So I kind of have this as like the core artifacts, right? Like we have the shared state. That is really like the glue that connects all these agents together. And these three files are the big ones that solve the problem of when we have a brand new session with an agent, how do we have it quickly understand where it's at in the code base right now? Like what should we build next? What maybe isn't working yet? Those kinds of things. And so the agent, when it runs, it reads all these files. It primes itself on the code base, like just getting its bearings. It also does regression testing. So we have regression testing built into the system where it will kind of spot check by randomly picking a couple of previous features that were implemented and making sure that they actually work. And so that way, if it ever breaks anything in the code as it's adding in new features, it will hopefully detect that and then loop back and fix that before it moves on to the next new thing. Excuse me. But assuming that it passes the regression testing, then it'll pick that next feature. So it'll go back to the JSON file, and it will find that next one that has passes as false, which if we go down here, for this test, I have to go like about at the halfway point here. Now we start to see these things where passes is false. So it'll pick the next one to knock out, and then it will implement and do a lot of testing as well. So it uses the Puppeteer MCP server so that it can actually go to the browser like we would as a user, and it can send in a message. Like, for example, I'm just gonna like copy this one here and send in a new chat. Like I can say, create a simple JavaScript function that adds two numbers, put it in an artifact. And like what I'm doing right here to test the application and show it to you live, it would do the exact same thing because it has control over a browser just like we do. And so the validation is never perfect, but like, man, is it good. And so it's able to catch like basically everything, even where like the UI just doesn't look good, it's still able to find that. And that's a newer thing. Like we haven't really been able to trust coding assistants until recently to find things that don't look right in the user interface. Like it's more the functionality that it could detect that isn't working in its own testing, but now it's even the user interface. And it'll even go so far as to do like mobile style checks. Like I can go to an iPhone and like making sure this actually looks good on an iPhone. And yeah, the title here looks bad. Like it's not perfect, but it's still like pretty good.
Wow.
And
The
it's never
core
gonna be
functionality of the app looks good. Dang,
right.
man.
Yeah, I
Holy
mean it's great.
smokes.
Yeah, and
Whoa.
like there are some oddities here. Like if I refresh, and I like send in a new message here, you'll see that like it's duplicated here until it like starts streaming out the response. So like there's things where it's not perfect. And that's why I want to reiterate that like this is experimental and you still want to like come in and validate things yourself and have like follow-up prompts at the end. But also like this demonstration that I have right here from a previous run, I let it go for exactly 24 hours for my YouTube video. And if I let it go for it completed about like 54% of the tasks. And so if I let it go completely end to end, it probably would have addressed these things as well. But I'm just saying
That's
that like even if there's little
crazy.
things, like we can just come in and iterate and it's still going to save us hours and hours and hours. Like it built so much here. We have the whole settings panel where I can switch between my themes. I can adjust my model that I'm using and the max tokens. Keyboard, it even built in keyboard shortcuts. Like there's so many features here. Like there's a reason why this feature list is over 200 long,
You're
because
blowing my mind right now. So
yeah.
autonomously, this is just has been running. This is obviously from the blog post, but the power, like we're getting the templates. It's like they're not just saying, "Hey, this is a theory. This is a theoretical paper. Our agents can do this." They're like, "No, like this is the actual recipe, guys, and you can take that and try it yourself," which is kind of what Cole is doing, and we're walking you through the entire overview here. But like the thing that's kind of shocking me and blowing my mind is that testing feedback loop, which I normally have to be there by hand. And I usually have to prompt Puppeteer or something else.
Hmm.
Like Cursor now has that built into their browser. But this is done in essence headless. So you weren't there. You weren't in an IDE typing this type of saying, load the web browser and then tell it back the response. It's using the MCP tool call underneath the hood, adjusting itself, adjusting for mobile view, fixing little things, prompting in a loop until it completes that task, marks it as true, moves to the next thing, moves to the next thing. And yeah, you just said 24 hours. Like you, as soon as you hit go, you said, okay, I'll check back in later. Let's see what's going on. And
Yep.
wow,
Yeah.
wow,
It's
wow.
very cool. Yeah, and there have been a lot of other people that have tried this since I shared as well, and they're getting really good results too, even for their own applications. Like one guy I know, um, Sean, he actually has done a lot of work on Archon. So shout out to you, Sean, if you're in the stream here. He took it for brownfield, so he actually applied it to do like a really large refactor on a code base that was like 12 major versions behind on TypeScript. So he had it like update TypeScript and do like this refactor that would typically be the most painful thing you could do as a developer. Like, trust me, I've been a part of like .NET migrations. If anyone in the chat here is a developer that's had to do like a .NET 4.8 to .NET 6 migration, that sucked. That was so bad, and I did not have a coding assistant back then. And so being able to just like have it rip through all the refactoring and do the kind of validation to like make sure that there's no like deprecated code still is really powerful. Web dev Cody, it's cool to have you in the stream. He said I tried this last night for 24. It's pretty amazing. 128 commits in. I love it. Yeah, yeah. So it actually makes a commit every single time it implements one of these features, which is another one of those like little things that I just really appreciate with the harness here, because it'll basically create a save state at every point, so that if anything fails, you could revert or it could revert back and then retry that feature. Or if it like implements one feature but then it actually breaks like 10 previous ones, then it's like, yeah, probably go back to a previous commit and then retry. I don't know how
Oh,
much it would do that
nice.
reliably, but it's like that's the kind of thing you can do when you create a save state at every point.
Somebody was asking us, how does this compare to like Spec Kit? It's an interesting question here.
Yeah, so Spec Kit is, I would say it's a little bit comparing apples to oranges, because when you have like I like to call these context engineering strategies, like Spec Kit or BMAD or Cloudflow or PRP. Hopefully, at least like one of those rang a bell for all of you. All of those are more like you're involved with the coding assistant, and it's your job to like go through the planning and do your validation as well, right? And so this is a very different thing where like, I mean, you could kind of like build Spec Kit into this and have it go through and like create the constitution and create like the, I forget all the documents that it creates, but like you could have it create the data model and things like that. But this is more of a separate thing where it's like, if you want to just let it rip for a really, really long time, try this harness. If you want to be a part of the process and really code with the coding assistant, that's when you would do something like Spec Kit, which when you're working on like a very production grade application, I wouldn't trust this right now. I wouldn't
Right.
have it do something fully end to end, but definitely like for just like experimenting with what is possible and building proof of concepts, this is really powerful. But like Spec Kit is
Totally.
something where if you want to build something, more production ready, it's like that could be a good strategy.
Man, that's cool. Yeah, thank you for kind of answering that. Such great
Hmm.
participation. And anyone who's tuning in live right now, we're basically going over this, how to basically get this thing running for a very long time. And we're kind of just breaking it down a little bit step by step, and appreciate all the audience interaction here. This is probably going to be multiple different live streams and stuff like that. So, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to showcasing this more and more. Maybe not even necessarily this harness, but just as I take ideas and apply it to my own systems, right? Like I told you guys to do. So definitely going to be doing more of that. And yeah, at this point, we've pretty much already covered the whole architecture of the harness here. The last thing that I'll say is, yeah, I kind of like veered off of the diagram once I was talking about this, but we already talked about how it makes a commit, makes a save state at the end of the coding agent, and then it's going to just loop. And it's going to do this over and over and over again until all the tests are passing. And yeah, the way that you define when the agent decides, like, I am done, let me update the Claude progress and then go to the next agent, like, that is all up to the prompt that you have for the coding agent. And so, just like I covered very briefly the prompt for the initializer agent, we also have one for the coding agent. And so, the entire process of like, make sure you get your bearings. Here are the commands for that, like reading through the git log, reading the Claude progress so you know what the last agent did. Like, all of this is just laid out as a prompt. Like, you could think of this as a slash command, for example, but we're just like loading this right into the prompt for the agent using the Claude agent SDK. And then we have it start up the website using the init script that the initializer created. And then this is the verification, like the regression testing that I mentioned earlier. So it picks 1 to 2 features that are already marked as true to make sure that they're already working. Then we choose one to implement. We implement it. We do the verification with the browser automation. So at this point, this is all review, right? Like I already talked about it, but I'm just showing it to you in the prompt as well. And then we update the feature list JSON to mark it as true, right? Like it's now passing. And then we make the commit, update the Claude progress, and then we are done. So it's very much just like boom, 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 10 steps. That's your process. And then if you want to in here, like this is where you can define the behavior of the agent. Like after you knock out one thing in the feature list, that is when you should call it and then pass it on to the next agent. Or maybe you want to try to move a little bit quicker and you're like, okay, I trust you to do 5 of these, and then you should pass it on to the next agent. So however much you want to customize things, it's totally up to you to edit the prompts. So like just like you can change the app spec to adjust what application is being built, you can also change the initializer prompt or the coding prompt. And this is a nice segue into the linear integration, because that's exactly what I did to make it so that this application uses linear to track all the features instead of this feature list JSON file, which I think just gives us a lot more control. And then the agent's working where we work, like I was saying earlier. And so I have a second version of the code base that'll pop up here. This is the one that I'm going to be using going forward. And so the app spec I have as the same thing. Like I'm going to just build the same application here for the sake of the demo. But then the only other things that I really updated in this code base, besides making it so you can use your Claude subscription, is I just changed the prompts. So like looking at the initializer here, you can see that I'm having it use the linear MCP server to create a project. So like one of the things that the agent does, the initializer agent does, as well as setting up the scaffolding and the Git repo and everything, and now also creates the linear project, because we just want to like make it so that everything is set up initially from the first session. And so you just see like a lot of edits that I made to mention linear throughout this here. And another thing that it does, instead of that Claude progress file, it also has a meta issue in linear. So I'll show you that really quick. So it also manages like the context to hand things off between agents, also in linear.
Wait, that's crazy. So you don't have to prompt it in the middle. You literally have thought like through every single step.
Yeah, I wanted everything to be linear, like no more local files. Because the other problem that I have with local files is you can't really run the harness in the cloud. Like what if I want to deploy it as something that like I can kick off remotely? I don't want to, like if I want to be able to validate the progress or validate the feature list, I can't do that unless I go and like SSH into that machine in the cloud, and that's just annoying. So I want everything to like be immediately accessible to me. So that's another reason that I just like the idea of having all of the context managed in a place that's easy for me to view, right?
My guy, everyone in the chat spam AGI because Cole Medine has literally unlocked AGI right now. Let's go.
Yeah. I appreciate that,
Bro,
Ray.
this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you. Ray, you're a good hype man.
I'm okay. I love this stuff. Just like everyone else watching this stream, I'm like geeking out live, like live. This is my reaction.
I love it.
And it's like every single step along the way, like you've locked in super hard, and you've taken these different bits and pieces, and now you're like, okay, I like this linear thing. This is really interesting. And then you discovered like, wait, I can run this on the cloud. And it's like all these revelations, right? And you're just like, oh yeah, that's just like a feature. This is kind of what I do. I'm like, no, bro, like you don't realize like, and I think a lot of people are having this like aha moment right now. It's like, oh, I think this is it. Like this is the sauce. This is the blueprint. It's literally right here for us. At the end of 2025, now coming into 2026, it's about to be crazy. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And even if you guys don't use linear, just think you could do this in any application that has any kind of similar user interface. This could be Notion, it could be your own application, it can be Asana, it could be Obsidian. Like, man, it doesn't take much to apply because all of this is just like, okay, here's the thing that people don't realize is that like everything that seems fancy with AI coding assistance is just a bunch of prompts. Like that's all it is under the hood. Like everything that I'm doing here is just like prompting it how to use the linear MCP, and all of the context in here is just a bunch of text, and I prompted it to tell it how to do this kind of thing. Like it's once you like understand that, it's just really easy to take these ideas and apply it wherever you want in your own applications with your own process. Like one thing that this whole harness does is the idea of test driven development. And for those of you more experienced engineers, maybe you kind of already picked that out. But all test driven development is we define the criteria, like these are the things that have to pass, and it'll even like write out the tests that will fail initially, and then we like build out the features and make the tests pass. And so like slowly we have a larger and larger percentage of our tests that are passing. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Maybe you don't actually like that though. Personally, I don't typically do test-driven development, but it doesn't mean that this harness isn't useful for me to extract certain ideas. Like maybe the whole idea of the Claude progress. I just love that. It's so easy to have agents share context, and then going into linear and building it in through this meta task like I did. Like I did that for a reason because I really like that part of the harness that Anthropic has given us here. And it's cool because we can see that. And this kind of veered off a little bit from my process. I kind of wanted it to update this project tracker in place. But what it did instead, which is still kind of cool, is each of the agents just like wrote a comment as like a reply to this issue here, where it did an overview of what it did, like, and even calling out the specific tasks that it marked as complete. And so for the sake of brevity, I just had it run like 3 sessions here. So this full demo is from my YouTube video on Wednesday where I did not use linear. And then this, it was just like, I'm not even showing you what it built because it was really small at this point, since I just wanted to do like a couple of things. But yeah, that's what we're looking at right here. And so like all these tasks that it marked off as complete was just with the first 3 coding agents. And so I gave it a bit more flexibility. Like you don't have to just do one and then pass off to the next coding agent because I wanted to go a little bit faster here. So just showing you an example of how like I've customized things however I want it to work. And it's cool that it even thinks through like little details, like it marks this as urgent so that like it always knows like, okay, this is what I have to look at the start of my session here. And obviously we have that as a part of the prompt to the coding agent as well. So just showing you that really quick, if I go to the coding agent prompt, it's going to look pretty similar. Like we have the same 10 steps overall. I guess there's one more step here, or a couple more steps because it's a bit more involved with linear. But overall, it's the same thing where it's like, get your bearings. Here are a couple of commands to do that. And then check the linear status. So using the linear MCP server to do that. Start up the application. I mean, this is like exactly the same as what we had in the harness already. So I'm keeping as many ideas as possible, just adjusting things where I need to take advantage of linear. Like now it's going to use linear to go and find 1 to 2 completed features to make sure that the regression testing is looking good. But it like still is using Puppeteer. Like if I go to the agent definition here that I have for the Claude Agent SDK, the 2 MCP servers that we have connected are Puppeteer and linear. And in the README here for this repo that I've already linked you to, I have like all the setup instructions. So you just have to get your subscription token, get your linear token, and you set those as your environment variables, and then the linear MCP will automatically be connected to your projects and tasks.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. It's just kind of the whole thing thought out here. This is really cool. I think if anyone's trying to check out the repo, we had linked it earlier a little bit above. And so if you're currently in the live chat, I think you also have it in your stream as well. And
Yeah,
we're
I'll
going to
put it
also
in the
try to
end.
pop it into the description. So if you're rewatching this, like in the video on demand, also for those who are watching, maybe you came in a little bit later. After this video is done, I'm going to run it through my transcription and stuff, and then have some timestamps also in the video. So that way you can go back to this live stream and you can kind of go to those certain points to come back and reference again. This is really, really amazing stuff. Wow. Wow.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Ray. Yeah. And I would say that like I probably want to keep iterating on this more. Like for example, I typically like to manage my environment variables in a .env. So I don't think I've set up everything perfectly for this yet, but I'm still kind of just like experimenting with how I want to set this up overall. And then also there's a separate application that I've been working on called the remote agentic coding system. That's what I covered in my last live stream on my channel. And so what I have there is like the ability for you to interact with your agents in Slack, Discord, Telegram, GitHub. And there's a lot of different platforms that I'm building support for. And so like maybe adding this kind of harness into that application as well. So I just have like a million ideas running through my head right now of how I could take this a lot further for all of you. And like maybe even having linear as like an integration directly within the remote coding agent. Yeah, and like having it so like this harness is something that you have as like an option to kick off if you want a long running thing, or you can just like be a part of the loop if you want to, and then like use something like the spec kit to that person's question earlier. So yeah, I want to like think about how I could design this kind of thing into a larger project that has the flexibility of like you can use this if you want, or if you want something a bit less experimental, more like you're a part of the process, then you can. So
I
yeah.
love this comment right here. They're saying it's not Claude Code, it's Claude Cole.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a mix. It's like Claude Code is the beast that powers everything. And then I'm just working hard on building a layer on top of it. And like I said earlier, that's exactly what a harness is you just take something amazing, like a really powerful LLM or a really powerful coding assistant, and you build the context layer on top of it. Here are my rules. Here are my prompts. Here's the process that I'm laying out through all of that. And really all this harness is two prompts. Like it's actually so basic because it's like here's the initializer, here's the coding prompt. I guess that's a bit of a simplification because we also have the Python code where we're using the Claude code or the Claude Agent SDK. But like overall, it's these two prompts that dictate the entire thing. And so that's like if there's any little golden nugget takeaway from this stream, it's like just don't overcomplicate it. You can have something really elaborate like this with just a couple of prompts and a little bit of code. You probably could even just use the Claude Code CLI directly, not even have to like have any Python code. I think that the Claude Agent SDK is just really powerful because it allows you to define your own workflows and code to do this kind of thing more easily. But still, like it's not too much overall.
Let's go ahead and zoom back out for anyone who could have been
Mhm.
just recently joining in and kind of just go over the quick high level overview of what we just covered because we went into a lot of detail in a lot of these different sections.
Yeah.
So maybe just kind of give them a quick rundown, like maybe how they can just quickly get started and then the resources and stuff. So that way they can say, okay, step one is this, and then step two is this, and this is kind of what we're going to be looking at. Kind of
Yeah.
like, almost, yeah, yeah,
That sounds good. I think that'll be a good like preface to go into the demo as well,
yeah.
because that's pretty much where I'm at right now, where I'm ready to get like actually kick this off, so we can see it do things in linear and get the application started. So, yeah, this is I'll put two links in the chat right now. I'll put the link in again to the article from Anthropic that inspired everything, and then also a link to the GitHub repo that I'm going to be demonstrating in a little bit here for my additions that I built on top of this. So, quick recap, or for those of you just joining, the main problem that we have with agents right now is they don't do that well when their context gets overwhelmed. Like 100,000 to 200,000 tokens, like once you start to get to that range where there's just so much information that it is looking at the same time, it doesn't perform as well. And so we need a way to kick off or sort of like reset the context window as we're building out a larger application, but still have it so that the agent has all the context it needs. So when one agent does a bunch of work and then it cuts itself off because the context is getting that too long, and then we go to the next agent, how do we have it quickly understand the code base and what to build next? And that's what this harness is solving for us. And a harness, all it is, a harness is a layer on top of our coding assistant that's just prompts. It's just prompts that tell it how we want to work with this system. And so what we have here is our initializer agent, and its sole job is to get the project started for us and define all the features that we want to run for, or that we want to implement for this very long running tasks. And so our goal here is to create a very large number of features so that we can have these agents run for a very long time before the application is actually complete. And so it creates these core artifacts. These are the files that the agents will read every single time we start a new agent, so that it can quickly catch itself up to speed on what our project is all about, what has already been implemented, and then what we need to build next. And so we have core files like the Claude progress, for example, where the previous agent has just given a summary of what it's done. And so that way we can start the context fresh every time, but it's not like the agent is flying in blind for that next feature. It has a really rich set of context of what has already been done. And so like that's like the main problem for us to solve with AI coding in general. Because we want our coding assistants to help us with these long running tasks, but we don't want them to get overwhelmed at the same time, because most of the problems that you have when you're using an AI coding assistant is just caused by the fact that it's overwhelmed, or maybe your description of what you want it to do is kind of vague, but that's kind of a separate problem from what we're focusing on here. So we're kind of assuming with this demonstration that you are very specific with your request, and like you know what you're looking for, and like that's why our agent or our app spec file is very detailed, is because like I said, we're expecting that you know what to build, right? But it's solving this other problem of how can we have it go through all of this, right? Like if you were to give this app spec file, like if I were just to like go into Claude right now and paste in this file and be like,
Cook.
go and build this right now. Like this is going to fail so miserably. There are so many problems with this. We're not giving any rules. We're not outlining any kind of process or any kind of validation. And it's way too much that we're asking it to build at the same time. And like that's all the problems we have to solve to make it so that we're actually managing our context effectively. And that's what we're doing with this harness here. And so, yeah, I think that's like kind of all I wanted as like a little overview here, unless you think there's anything else that we should explain, Ray, before we
No,
get
that's
into
perfect.
demonstration.
I'm excited
Okay.
to kick this process off. And if you've been following along and you've been loving this, I love everyone who's been able to kind of follow along and show their regards. You know, obviously, thumbs up goes very well for the algo. Sharing with other friends right now, just letting them know, like, yo, Claude Cole is cooking. And this next part is about to be fire. So make sure you stay locked in for this, because we're going to see this in action right now.
Yes, that's right. And we're going to be using linear. I guess that's the one thing I didn't review yet, is that I've updated this harness myself so that it uses linear to track everything. Because what Anthropic has shared in their quick start is just using local files. And so I have specifically called this project old don't use, because when it uses the linear MCP to list my projects, I want to make sure it doesn't think that it's going to continue this project in linear. So we want it to start completely from scratch here. And surprisingly, getting this entire demonstration up and running is really easy. And so the link that I already put in the chat to the repo, the README here, has the instructions to get everything up and running yourself. And then once you go through all the steps, all you have to do to kick off this entire process is just run a single Python script. Because this Python script is responsible for using the Claude Agent SDK to load in the initializer prompt and send it into the initializer agent, and then do the same thing with the coding agent for all those iterations going forward. And it's even smart enough to understand if the project directory that you reference here as the parameter is a project that's already underway. So it'll know, like, okay, this is loop number 10. I'm going to go to the 11th coding agent. Like, it won't try to restart with the initializer agent. And so that's also built into the harness here. And then if you want to limit the number of iterations it does, so you don't like get rate limited with your max subscription, you can do that as well. But obviously that's not as fun. So we're going to run it right now without any kind of limit to its iteration. So let me go back over to my terminal here. And then I'm just gonna like call this, I don't know, Claude.ai clone. This is the same folder name that I used in my video on Wednesday. So I'll go ahead and kick this off. And then this is gonna take a good amount of time to get to the point where like we can really see something ourselves, because the initializer agent it takes a while to run. Usually it's not 10 to 20 minutes like they're warning us here, but it still will take a while. And so this is a good chance for Ray and I to like answer questions that you guys have as well. And so yeah, probably like the second half of our live stream here will be us more just answering you guys' questions and then like watching this go and then seeing some of like the interesting things when they come up, like when it first spins up the browser and we get to like watch it navigate the browser, for example. We should get to that point here because it will maybe be like 20 minutes about until we get to that point. But just calling this out here, so it notices that this is a fresh start. So
Mm.
it's using the initializer agent, and I have it set up so that it's going to create 50 tasks in linear. And so my scala draw diagram earlier, if you remember, I had 200 listed out here because that's the default from Anthropic, but that's another thing that I adjusted in the prompts just to make it so it won't take as long.
Wow. Wow,
And
that's really
so,
cool. And
yeah, I
what
just
about
want.
rate limits for somebody was asking about the max sub?
Mhm.
Have they relaxed them recently, or what is your take on this?
Yeah, so I don't really know what's going on with my account. I have cranked the heck out of it for months, and I have not hit a rate limit. And so this entire time, I had this running for 24 hours. And mind you, for 12 of those hours, I also had this running twice. And I did not hit a rate limit. And I was using Opus 4.5. This is using Opus. It's not using Sonnet. Yeah, because you can see here the model is Claude Opus 4.5. Now, I don't really know why I haven't hit a rate limit, if I'm going to be totally honest, because there are other people telling me that they have hit rate limits very quickly, especially with Opus. I don't know what to tell you. It seems like
You have the
Anthropic.
$200 max plan, right?
That's right, I do.
Okay,
Yep.
I
But
have that
even
too.
other, yeah,
Yeah.
even other people that have the $200 plan, they're still hitting rate limits
Ooh,
quite often. So
okay.
I don't really know. Like there's something really weird going on where different accounts have different limits. It might be a regional kind of thing. A lot of people in the Dynamous community have been suspecting that. It's hard to tell. There also is a theory that I'm never going to be able to prove, but seems more and more true that like for content creators, Anthropic has specifically singled out our accounts and made it so that we have a very generous limit so that we don't talk bad about Anthropic. And that is, that's kind of like throwing a dagger at them. So like, please take that with a
Now you're gonna
massive
get rate
grain of
limited, bro.
right, right, yeah, yeah. Take that with a massive grain of salt. Like I don't think that's actually happening, but I'm
Right.
just like saying like I'm trying to theorize like why I've never hit a rate limit in the past.
Interesting.
Like it's been like 4 months since I haven't hit a rate limit since July with
Whoa.
Claude Code. So yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. That is fascinating. That would kind of make sense because we test them for a long time, and I mean, so for me, I use a lot of different agents and stuff. So that's the other part
hmm
of it. It's like I go
yep,
between Cursor, Droid, Cloud Code, Codex. Like by the time I do my full loop, the month is over and everything kind of resets.
yeah, that makes sense. That's smart. That's actually what someone else in my chat said just now. No rate limits for me, but I regularly toggle between OpenAI, Claude Code, and Gemini. So same as you, Ray. That's smart. I mean, like it's good to try different coding assistants, and I still consider Claude Code to be the best out of all of them. But that gap is diminishing very quickly. Excuse me. So like back in like especially May and June, it was like nothing was even close, and it was kind of
Wow.
pathetic, like how much
Yeah,
of a
that's true.
monopoly Claude Code had.
Yeah.
But now with like Codex and Gemini 3 and like the IDE anti-gravity, we're seeing things catch up. OpenCode is fantastic. Factory is fantastic.
Mhm.
Which I also wanted to. So I have the factory logo in the thumbnail for the live stream today because it's like your thing, Ray. And I want to talk about that as well. I know that we're not really
Uh,
like using it for the demo here,
right. Yeah.
but also like factory is doing something very different than this harness to solve the context issue because they're focusing on memory compression. And so
Mhm.
even though it's not in the demo here, I really want to talk about that with you as well.
Mhm.
So we'll get into that like maybe once I'm done explaining this here and we go through some of the questions we have in the chat.
Cool.
I think
Yeah,
that'd be
somebody was
awesome.
asking if there's an easy way to change providers like Olama or Grok for, this harness.
Yeah. And that's the question I had in my chat as well. So yeah, I'm happy to answer that. Maybe I want to like finish because I'll do
Oh
that
yeah.
next. Let me finish explaining what's going on here, and then I'll get onto that question because that is something else I really want to talk about is how like this is not limited to Claude Code, because yeah, like I said, Claude Code is my favorite. But like there's a lot of people that have gripes with it because of cost and rate limiting, and I mean it has outages sometimes too. And so I definitely want to talk about how like this is agnostic to the coding assistant. But really quick, I just wanted to call out that our initializer here is doing everything to get the project started. So it reads the app spec. This is determines when or what it's going to do when it creates all of the issues in linear. And you can see that it's making all of these calls to the linear MCP server. And it's doing these in parallel, by the way. So that's why you see like all these dones in a row and all these calls in a row. So this is happening a lot faster than you'd think because it's just doing it all in parallel. And so, or like doing it in batches, I should say. It's not all entirely parallel. And so by the end of this, we have everything set up in linear. It's going to set up the Git repo and everything. And then now we get into session 2, which is the coding agent. And so the coding agent is going to get its bearings like we saw. And I actually have to correct myself. Ray, I told you that it doesn't look at the app spec. It only looks at the feature list, but that's not true. I noticed that in the prompt earlier as well. So it does actually read the app spec. So that plus the linear issues are its ground truth of what we're building and what's coming next. And so you can see that there's one local file that I have here. I have like a .linear project JSON. The point of this file is to tell it like, here is the linear project that you should be looking at. So if we go and we look at this right here, we have the project ID and the team ID. So these are the two parameters that it needs for all of its calls to the linear MCP server. So that way it knows where to look. So that way, like what I could do is I could completely crash this application. Like I could do Control C here and end it and then restart it, and it still would know like, okay, this is the linear project that is associated with this code base that we're working on autonomously.
That's
And
nice.
so,
That's
yeah.
so cool.
And so you can see here that we have a third issue now, Claude.ai
Wow.
clone. If we go to the issues, then we've got our same meta issue that I showed earlier. And then we have one in progress right now. It's initializing the Express server for the backend
Let's take a
currently.
look. I want to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and each one of these has a description. So this
Gorgeous.
is where we can edit things if we want to add ourselves in the loop, which is another thing that's really nice with using linear. And then yeah, I can like change the display to be a board here too. I like this one more. But yeah, so all of these are marked as high priority right now because these are the first things that it's going to knock out. I think what this means is that, like I said, I haven't like spent a ton of time with this yet. It really is experimental. I think this means that these are the things that it's going to build out before it goes to the second coding agent session, right? So it'll knock out all these things. It'll move them all to the done column. Then it will make a comment on the meta issue and then go to the third session, i.e. our second coding agent.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see all the
And
tasks it generated here. I'm kind of curious.
yeah, there's a lot. Very
Holy
cool.
smokes. Wow.
And it's not like it's trying to do way too much. Like it's not over engineering this application.
Mm-mm.
It's just that each one of these tasks is very, very granular. For example, this one is like just for adding in the ability to edit a message that they previously sent, and so that you can regenerate Claude's response. And
Wow.
so it's just getting very, very specific, which I think that's really good. I always recommend people, one of the things that I cover as like a core part of my agentic coding course, which I just finished last week, by the way, in the Dynamous community, I cover the idea of the PIV loop. And that's like my core mental model for coding. What I do with my coding assistants is I plan a feature. Oh, actually, you know what I could do is I could pull up the diagram for this here. Let me do this quick in my Obsidian Vault.
That's
Um,
cool.
so this is my
Wow.
diagram for the PIV loop. So I always start by planning my feature, and I do what's called vibe planning. And by the way, this is not what we're doing today. This is when like I actually want to be in the loop, which I recommend for most things. But I start with vibe planning, and I call it vibe planning because I'm more just having an unstructured conversation where I explore my ideas with the coding assistant. I think about the architecture, concepts. I'm asking it questions if there's anything I don't understand. And so I get to the point where I'm just on the same page with the coding assistant for what I want to build. That's the vibe planning stage. And then you take that conversation and you use it to create a structured plan. So you go from unstructured to structured, which also like takes a lot of mental burden off of you because when you first start a new feature, you don't have to worry about like what are my goals, what are my success criteria, what documentation do I want to reference? Because at first you just want to like get your bearings with the coding assistant, like here's what we're going to build next. Then you move into having it help you build this kind of structured plan that feeds in as like all the context the coding assistant needs when it gets into implementing. And it even has like the validation strategy, for example, like we're seeing today, so that the coding assistant can check its own work with the unit tests, integration tests. This is actually perfect timing. You see the browser
Whoa.
pop up here. I didn't do that myself. That is the Claude Agent SDK using the Puppeteer MCP. And so it's currently, because we're just starting the project, it's literally just calling the health endpoint of the API to make sure that the Express server that it's working on is working. So yeah, going back here, it moved it to done. Like we're watching this all happen in real time right now because it initialized the Express server and then it used Puppeteer to make sure that it's working, moved it to done, and now we're moving on to the next thing, setting up SQLite. So yeah, this
This
demo
is
is going
crazy. It's
very, very
happening
well
real
so
time.
far. I know, yeah. Like I literally went to Puppeteer and then like in the background I like saw it like move this to in progress. And so with Linear, it's like all real time. Like I don't have to refresh my page to watch the new things coming in from the coding assistant. So I can just like sit here and watch it move everything. Which that's also something that I thought about doing for a YouTube video is like a really like sped up time lapse of it like having this up so like we're watching it test its own stuff and then like having linear so it'd be kind of like a split screen thing, right? Have
No,
like
that
the
you know how they had
pup.
play Pokemon for whatever, like it was one of the Claude code things. You should do a
Hmm.
24-hour live stream, not you, but Claude Cole,
Yeah, yeah,
Claude
yeah.
Cole as the autonomous agent will actually just run in the live stream. And then you pop in every so often, check up on it, and just start talking to it, and just
Oh
say like, and you
man.
just show like these.
Yeah,
You maybe you can
yeah.
use Riverside or something like, just let it go. Like, oh, that's
I actually
cool.
love that idea so much. Yeah, because yeah, I mean both would be good. Like really sped up time lapse on YouTube, but then like also just having a place for people to hang out and watch for like an actual 24-hour live stream. That would be very, very cool.
And then like you can make beats or something
Yeah.
for it with Suno. Like,
Right? Yeah. Oh man, I like that a lot. You
yeah,
know what?
you're
That'd
just
be so
like
cool to
making the
do.
chill
Is like,
beats.
right? Yeah, yeah. That'd be really cool to do like right before Christmas, like Christmas Eve, or the day before
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, like 23rd maybe, like just do like a holiday, like more like chill live stream where we're just kind of watching it go, and I don't have to lose my voice for streaming for multiple hours like I always do.
Right. Yeah,
That
you'll
sounds
just pop
good.
in at certain times, like top of the hour or something, and or whatever. Like, you know.
Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, that's cool, man. I love that. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, actually, I
Cool.
might take this harness, and I might take that idea too, and we can both do it at the same time or do it different times.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about maybe making like a little video game, like a little sprite video game. Or make
Yeah.
have it see if it can do like a lightweight Pokemon clone, because that could be really fun. And then it will build itself and test itself live.
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah.
Wow,
Man, that's
wow,
cool.
this is crazy. It's like, so somebody had asked earlier about the JSON versus linear. So
Mm-hmm.
this didn't create any JSON files, right? From the get, or it didn't start from JSON files for the tasks. It generated them all straight into linear from the get-go.
That's right. Yep. So if I go back to the code base here, it created the one JSON file it created was this one
Ah,
that I mentioned earlier. So it has the context of what project am I working in linear. But you can see in this code base there is no feature list JSON. So it is generating everything directly into linear. So our app spec here, as well as the tasks in linear, that is the source of truth.
wow,
And so that's
wow.
very different than like if I go to this is the old version of the code base, like directly from Anthropic. All of
Mm,
my generations, they have this feature list JSON file. Like this one, I have this one from a previous test.
mhm.
Um, what else do I have? This old one, yeah, like they all have the JSON file. So that's not in the new one at all.
Ah, so the new one doesn't have that because it doesn't need it because it's going to put it into linear.
Yep, directly
Oh,
linear.
God,
Yeah,
this is gorgeous. This is so
it's
cool.
it's pretty fantastic. Yeah, and you can see here like we can watch the logs in real time. Like it created a comment on I assume this is a comment on the Claude progress or like the meta issue, or maybe a comment, or it might have just commented on an issue that it marked as done. But yeah, like calls out like, okay, these are complete. Let's go ahead and comment on them, whatever, and then mark them as done. So if I go back to linear now, sure enough, the ones that I was working on before are now marked as done. So we have 3 in total, and now it's working on getting the Claude API set up with streaming. So it's going to do some backend stuff before we get any kind of really cool look at what it's doing at Puppeteer. So hopefully we'll get to that point, but it just has to get the server working. Then it'll start working on the user interface. So this application takes care of everything. And
That's
okay, this
insane.
is Yeah, it's so cool. There's one other thing I want to call out here. Yeah, so Scott mentioned it again in the chat. Yeah, one thing I want to call out is that I have made it so that this application uses your Claude subscription for the actual coding. But if you are cloning Claude specifically, you still need the Anthropic API key. So when it goes into the testing here, and well, here, I'll show like the final product. Like when I'm interacting with Claude here, this is still using the Anthropic key. So you need it for the application itself, but you're using your max plan or whatever for the coding part, right? However, you don't have to create a Claude clone. You can make any kind of application if you don't want to use the Anthropic API key as well. So this isn't like limiting you in any way. It's just if you want to clone Claude and do the exact same thing as me, then you will also need your Anthropic key. But if you want to just build some other kind of application, or you could just change the app spec so that it's using your OpenAI key, or it's using Olama. If you want it to have this whole chat application work with local AI, you could do that. So it's just it's only for the app that it's using Anthropic key. I just want to be like really clear that you can use your max subscription for all of the coding that's like actually going to take a lot of tokens. Like everything we're seeing in the terminal here is using our max subscription. So I hope that makes sense, Scott. And you can change this however you want. So yes, this now gets into the other question that we had about using this whole thing with a different provider. And so let me talk about that really quickly. So I'll go to the code base here. Scott said the logs you just showed was asking for the key. It'll find the key, Scott, because I have the key in the temp file right here. So it'll find it. It just has to iterate a little bit to find it. But it's been able to do that for me without a problem. It should
That's amazing.
be able to find
So
it.
amazing.
Yeah, I think we're good. I'll move on and we'll see. We'll see if it actually does trip up, then I'll just add it myself into the temp folder right here. But we should be good. Okay, yeah, you bet, Scott. Cool. All right, so the next big question here. And then I'm curious if you had any other ones, Ray, but I want to talk about making this work with other coding assistants. So this whole thing is using the Claude Agents SDK, which is a fantastic piece of technology because it allows us to use Claude code in our programs, in our scripts with either Python or TypeScript code. And it gives us a lot of flexibility because we can define our model, we can change the system prompt for as well. Like I'm telling it that you're a full stack developer building production quality web applications using Linear for project management. I can change the allowed tools that it has access to, so setting more granular permissions for security purposes, which also this repository from Anthropic is a goldmine of just like understanding how we can build security into our coding agents because they block certain kinds of commands so the coding assistant can't remove folders, for example. It's really, really cool. If you want to look into the bash security hook, if you care about the security, definitely take a look. I'm not going to cover that right now because it's more technical, but I do call this out in my YouTube video as well because I really appreciate what they've done here. Like they allow all bash commands by default, but they then have like a hook that runs before it ever makes a tool call, and that checks to make sure that like it's not trying to kill itself or delete a folder, like those kinds of things that you would always want to block. So it's really, really robust. Like they just put so much thought into this harness, and that's why I wanted to build on top of it and put a lot of thought into it myself, because there's just so much potential with this kind of thing. But anyway, I was getting a little bit ahead of myself here because I want to talk about using other coding assistants. Sorry, I had to veer off for a sec. So yeah, Claude Agent SDK. There are a lot of other coding assistants that have their own SDK. The few that I want to call out really quickly, we have the Codex SDK, we have the OpenCode SDK, and then we have the AMP SDK. So let me click into all these really quick. So what you could do, and you could probably ask a coding assistant to do this in like a single piv loop, like just one iteration. It'd probably be able to change the entire thing to use like the Codex SDK instead of the Claude Agent SDK. So you could use, GPT-5 Codex for your for the LLM that's powering everything here instead of Claude 4.5 Opus. And so
Oh,
it operates very similarly. The one thing that's a little unfortunate is that all of these SDKs are only TypeScript, not Python. So you would have to completely change the language of the harness here. But the harness is so simple. Like I said, it's mostly just prompts that you probably would be able to like build this entire thing in one go with a coding assistant. And so like all the different ways that you can use Codex in the CLI or OpenCode in the CLI or Claude, like you can do all the same thing with the SDK. But now
yeah.
you get to control the
Cursor has
agent
an
and
SDK
code.
too, so you can also
Do
kick
they
off like a yeah.
really? Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought they only had a headless CLI, which is a
Or
little bit different.
it's kind of well, I think was it the oh, I don't know if it's private or invite only or
Okay. It
because you
might
can
be.
basically run a version of their agent, which is insane.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that's really cool if they have
I
it, but I
don't
haven't seen
know.
it.
I
So
think
they
it's
have a headless CLI, which is a little bit different because it's not like directly in your Python or TypeScript code.
yeah, I think it was like an agent API. I don't think it's public. I'll find out
Okay.
some more information because I know
If
that
they're
some people
releasing
were
it,
getting
then
invites for it because they were making their own like SSH tunneling systems,
okay.
and they were yeah, there's and I think basically you can just run their agent instead of running it into their app. You can just run it in your own app. In essence, you can basically do that here.
Okay. That's good. Cool. Yeah, Rasmus said they have an API, but not an SDK,
Yeah.
which you
Okay.
could use that as well. It would just, the code would look a little bit different
True.
than using an SDK. So in that case, I don't know if you could like change this harness to use cursor in one go. It might be a bit more of an effort. But
Yeah.
all of
Or
these
you'd probably write your own
SDKs work.
framework for it, something. Yeah.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, exactly. You can kind of make an SDK using an API, definitely. I mean,
AMP
that's
has
a
an
lot of
SDK.
SDKs really are just a wrapper on top of an API. But yeah, you could use AMP, you could use OpenCode, and through OpenCode, you could use Gemini 3. So the Gemini CLI does not have an SDK, unfortunately. But like if you want to use Gemini 3, because I know like that's one of the newer and cool models as well, then you can just do it right through OpenCode. So they have that listed as one of the supported models, Gemini 3 Pro.
Oh, that is
We could use
brilliant.
Kimi K2 or GLM. We could use Qwen 3 Coder. So I don't really know how we would be able to use like Olama if you wanted to use like fully local for this,
Yeah.
because there's not like a coding assistant with an SDK I know of. That like if Klein had an SDK, that would be cool. But they do not. They also have a headless mode for running the CLI, but again, that's
I
not the
wonder if
same thing
OpenCode
quite.
lets you configure like custom URLs. So
They might actually.
that would probably
So
make
yeah,
sense, you know?
right.
But then
Yeah,
also like
maybe.
you have to keep in mind for the specific model that you're using, is it good with tool use?
Oh.
And is it trained for these types of things? So I know Kimi
Hmm.
K2 came out with a version where they're like they can run like 100 to two like several hundred tool calls and it kind of doesn't really lose memory and so forth like that. So,
Wow.
and where other agents aren't really trained to do a lot of back-to-back agents.
Yep.
So this is just running right now. It just,
Yeah, very. It doesn't look good yet, but we shouldn't expect it to at first. So it kind of has just the boilerplate for the application running right now. But there we go. We're seeing it work with it live, and the resolution's kind of off because the browser didn't start full screen. But if I were to like actually go in my browser to localhost port 5175, we can see that it looks better there. But yeah, so we got a light and dark theme. It kind of is just getting things started here. We don't have like a logo yet, and there's no conversation. But again, each one of these tasks that we have in linear is very granular. So we're just focusing on the main 3-column layout structure right now. So that's what we're about to see. And then it'll start building and like actually talking to the LLM and stuff.
that's
So yeah,
amazing.
very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and sorry, I have to correct myself here because we can use Olama through OpenCode. You're totally right, Ray. And actually, Rasmus said in the chat that he just tested it himself.
Whoa.
So yeah,
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. There's other additional considerations if you're already going down this route that you'll probably start to discover of like which open models. And if actually anyone has more experience with this, please share it in the chat because it's going to help everyone else in this community. Have you found an open model that you use Olama locally that can work for some of these agentic toolcat tasks? We're probably just going to start finding out in the coming week because this is still so new for all of us. So
hmm
any information you find out, please share it back because that's going to help everyone else save that time that you probably spent for half the day figuring that out.
right.
And we're happy to tell more people about it and this is super amazing. There's no way that we can check all these different permutations. So
Right. Right.
community is always really great to be a part of. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And yeah, it's very true. Like I've built applications before where I've tried to support like a ton of different large language models, and it's always tough because I can't test all of them. So people always end up having issues with specific ones, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be honest, I never tried that model because I'm not like people are like, oh, this doesn't work with fireworks with Llama 3. I'm like, well, yeah, I've never tried fireworks with Llama 3. And it's just not a tool that I use that often, or if ever. Like I've used fireworks like twice before. A lot of people probably don't even know what that is. It's just like another LLM provider, like OpenRouter, for example. But yeah.
Yeah. Also, another thing to note, if you are diving down into some of these types of agentic tools, even though you have a provider like Fireworks that's hosting it, or Grok or Cerebrus, there's also a variance in temperatures. So if you change
Mm-hmm.
the temperature between the different providers, they can actually give you different results because there's a lot of different configurations on the end. So when you're hitting the API, if you just leave the default temperature, it may work, it may not work. There may be something either in the model card specifically for that model that would say, we suggest you use this temperature, and it'll follow it. Or if you hit the API, they may have that set already. So those little details actually
Mm-hmm.
do matter in terms of quality of output that you get. So that's just something that for anyone who's working with these like open source models, just be aware, you're going to go through these additional little quirks that, Claude or some of these bigger frontier labs have already kind of configured by default. So that way you don't have to spend that time doing that. So
Right.
just FYI. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really good to keep in mind. And it's different temperature is better for different use cases as well. So that's good to know. Like for more creative work, you want a higher temperature. For coding, you want a lower temperature generally, unless it's building a front end, right? Like it just totally depends. Yeah, and we're making good progress here, by the way. Like we have the artifact column, and we have the conversation column on the left-hand side with the settings that I click this button, nothing happens yet. But again, not surprised because there is probably, if we go look in linear here, there's probably a task specifically to implement the settings. Like if I just search for settings here, yeah, front end settings modal with tabbed interface, right? Like that is an upcoming task, and so it's of course that button's not going to do anything yet. So very, very cool.
So I think you can also monitor this on your phone, right? Like if you're on your phone, you
Oh
can
yeah.
look at all the.
Yep, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Remote agentic coding. That's another thing that I've been very focused on recently. Actually building out an entire application to be able to kick off assistance from where you work. And so the goal of that is very similar to this, where I want to be able to watch things and manage things, excuse me, directly where I work. Which for this harness, we're not actually kicking off the agent from linear, but with my application, we could. And so maybe even combining some of the ideas that we have here.
I was watching this really funny. It's not funny. It's actually kind of interesting. These guys who are launching a product live and they're doing a vlog series. So they're based out of New York, and
Okay.
I forget the name of the product, but they're working with a pretty big influencer, and he has like almost like his Notion but for writing type of thing where it collects all of his ideas. And the guys described like being so locked in during launch because they're just got like thousands of users uploading, I think, 1 million files within 24 hours to their
Wow.
service. So the guy's taking a shower with his laptop, like he's trying to hold it and is like getting wet, and he's
Oh my goodness.
making sure those servers don't go down, and they're scaling, and he's basically doing this thing. Is like if he had his
Wow.
phone like with linear up or something, he could just be yapping
Yep.
in the shower, like hitting the
That's right.
button or
Yeah. Sounds like they're successful, but not leveraging tools as much as they could be, even.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's moving fast right now. So it's kind
Right.
of really cool to see different perspectives and like actually seeing you take this idea with linear and be like, let me just see if I can add this in as the next step, which is what you did right before this live stream. And
Hmm.
this is different from what you did in the video because you
Right.
added this additional step in so that we're actually seeing this. Wow, man, this is fantastic because I can't wait. Well, the other thing too is like I think in linear you can share maybe read-only views or something to other people who are not in your team, or
Maybe.
whatever.
I
Like
I don't know. That'd be
I
cool
don't
to
know.
do if I could. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I haven't really gone too far on that thing, but it's interesting because I was thinking about how fun would it be. Like you actually kind of inspired me. It's like I make a 24-hour stream where this is
Hmm.
literally live, and like I'm making a video game and everyone can see the progress of the video game being built streamed live. And it's just kind of running.
Yes. Oh, I love that idea. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray, you've
Oh,
definitely inspired me to want to do more live streaming. Not even more than just like these ideas you have, but just for how much you do it, and it seems like a blast.
oh
And,
yeah.
and whenever I do a live stream, like I have a lot of fun with it for sure. I just typically do it like once a month. But yeah, man, there's so many cool things that you can do with a stream.
Yeah, we got to. I was looking at your chat. A lot of people participating. Let us know, like, if you want to see Cole do some more live streaming in the comments below. I
Yeah.
think everyone's kind of building and doing community together. It's just really fun to kind of hang out and kind of watch these things work in real time. A lot of us
Hmm.
have questions. I I take this opportunity. It's almost like a live meeting. This would almost be like what we would chat about privately. It's like, hey, what are you working on?
Hmm.
What's the latest thing that you're seeing in the AI in this SDK? Because I haven't had a lot of time to play around with it, and you've like really gone super deep in this. And
Yeah.
not only that, but you're sharing back the repo. It's like, yes,
Right.
this is cool. This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I always try to be very open about the things that I'm sharing. So there are definitely a lot of big things I'm working on that are exclusive to the Dynamous community, like the remote agentic coding system, and just a lot of like the systems I have around evolving your AI coding workflow. But for a lot of what I do, like I'm sharing it completely open, like what I'm doing here, the live stream with you, all of the AI agents that I build on my channel. Like I've got a really cool hybrid search RAG agent coming out on Wednesday that is just going to be another one of those templates that's just like fully open sourced. And it's
Ooh.
really cool because it's using MongoDB, which I've never made content on MongoDB before. So just continuing to explore a lot of these other platforms that are doing a lot of amazing things for AI specifically. And we see this all the time where these platforms that like you never thought like are going to be AI native, they become that. Like Notion is literally advertising themselves as an AI platform now. Sentry is building in like AI observability, and they used to just be like an application monitoring. Like all these things are just leaning fully in on AI. MongoDB is adding stuff in for RAG specifically, which is why I'm leaning into that. Like it's just cool to like try these platforms and share it with you guys because you never know like what ends up being like the core part of your stack because all these platforms I'm mentioning are also like they're not experimental. They're like the real deal. Like Notion, MongoDB, Sentry, like these are the real deal. So it's cool to play around with them, but they're not just like play tools either, right? Like it's just me experimenting and like sharing that with
Whoa.
you.
I just saw a bunch of tasks get moved to done. Holy smokes.
No, no. So that was just because the in progress column went away. So it moved one
Oh,
thing to done, right? And now it
oh, I
picks
see. I
up the
see.
next thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
So
it's cool
we
to.
can technically spawn like sub agents and other things too if it was part of the instruction set, if it determined certain tasks can be done in parallel, right? And then we would see all of
Right.
those in progress, right? And then work trees like someone was mentioning and so
Hmm.
forth. And like you can take this concept and people you just go crazy.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Oh man, there's so many things you can build on top of this. So I'm gonna keep dreaming, and I think that it'll be cool to do a lot more streams and videos on this in general. Yeah, and like I said, maybe combining it with a remote agentic coding system. But I got to think about like how much I want to do there. We will see. But yeah, it's pretty freaking cool. And then something Rasmus said in the chat: tested the remote agent workflow manager harness today. Built a circle clone in a few hours in Django. That's very
What?
cool.
Oh, hell
I haven't
yeah.
heard Django in a long time. Wow. Have you used Django before, Ray? Have you
A
heard of it?
long time ago. I think
Yeah,
I
long.
some of my internal tools at Apple that I built were based off of that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, it's a Python web framework, and this is actually the very first framework I ever used to build a website. And so it's kind of nostalgic, like going back to Django. Their green documentation kind of looks like
Yes.
Supabase, but I didn't even know what Supabase was back then.
Dang.
Yeah, it's so a lot of love for Django, but I moved to React and then I did not look back, but I still think
Wow.
it's a great framework.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To get started, it taught me a lot about like early like web development and um like I mean because I'm not a web developer by trade. Most of
hmm,
my work was like in the system level things, low level stuff to just overall how to build a massive operating system and like that type of stuff. And so the web tooling stuff was more like, internal tools, dashboards, other things. And it
nice.
taught me a little bit about, how can I pass around data objects between different things in a like programmatic way. And then, it wasn't PHP. So I was like, okay, this is cool.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. As long as it's not PHP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and Django implements the MVC architecture. And I assume that's kind of what you were talking about. It helps you just understand how pieces are connected together because
Hmm.
like everything's in one place, and so you see like, oh, okay, this is how my components are injected into the front end. That I put it from like this API endpoint where I render it out, or whatever, like that kind of thing. Or like here's how I fetched records from the model that I have defined, and then pass that to the front end and like loop over the things and display it in a table. Like that kind of stuff was, yeah, really really good learning experience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
for those who are just joining in, if you're kind of new to this AI coding, because I know there's a lot of people who maybe haven't done this stuff before, pick a framework like everyone's using, the default Next.js, React, or whatever.
Hmm.
That's just going to help you get off the ground, and you're going to put in these reps. You're going to run into the problems that we've run into maybe over a decade ago in our coding thing, and that's actually just part of the process. That's okay. And, just keep learning and keep chugging along. I think the intent, so the fact that you're here is like you want to build stuff. You want to get your ideas come to life. And then
Yeah.
the cool thing is actually seeing it, actually work like the way we're seeing it right now. it
That's right.
it feels
Yeah.
like you can do way more than you could back in the day, and this is just going to be part of the process. And yeah, like other people who are currently in the chat, I mean, everyone's really good people, a community. Everyone's just really about helping each other out. So I definitely appreciate everyone who's been kind of stopping in the stream and kind of checking things out and saying hello. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate a lot as well. And there's actually a really interesting comment in the chat that I want to bring up and hear your thoughts on as well, Ray. Jeff said, just had a thought. No one is ever going to invent new programming languages again like they used to, which I think is a little bit of a hot take. I think I agree with that. I would have to think about that a lot more though, but I think that's true. And then Jeff also said cool stuff is becoming the new programming language, which I appreciate that a lot, Jeff. But yeah, Ray, I'm curious about your thoughts. Like, do you think that because it's interesting, like AI coding assistants are so trained on React code
Mm.
or I should say like TypeScript or JavaScript or Python code. So it's like if we build a new language, then AI coding assistants are just not going to do nearly as well to help us. And if we become more and more focused on leveraging AI coding assistants, that means we're less and less inclined over time to ever care about any new language. I assume that's what you're getting at, Jeff. I'm curious what you think about that, Ray.
Um, I kind of have a more optimistic take, to be honest.
Okay. Okay.
And I think it just goes back to the origins of humans. So,
Hmm.
like, as human beings, there was probably one language a long time ago. And then as people spread out to different tribes, those people in those tribes, like, started to have their own dialects and then change up the wording. And
Hmm.
then as people kept spreading to different regions, they kind of started to change their tones. And whoever the tribe leader is, they kind of established the language for their use cases. And then
Hmm.
as people went into like really native like island stuff, a lot of communication in those languages were based off of their farming and agriculture. So stuff dealing with water, fishing, land, and like language kind of evolves from that. If humans continue to do human things, which is what we do, and we're interfacing with these AI systems, it may seem obvious that, like, of course, AI is going to do its thing, and it's just a reflection of what it's been able to take so far. And AI continue to be this like general language model, but there's going to be other evolutions of what happens from here. And
Hmm.
so, I actually think there's going to be an explosion of languages because
Hmm.
there's going to be, in essence, interfaces and problems to solve in each of our communities that are very specific to our own tasks that are going to be very efficient for those tasks too. So, right, like think about the world, in farming cultures and all those types of things that deal with that, they had to evolve their language and all of their ways of getting food and survival around that too. So, like in essence, it's sort of based off survival, right?
Hmm.
And so even why there's different tribes, Claude Code, OpenAI, like all of these people have not necessarily converged into one mega conglomeration. It's
Right.
specific to different tasks,
Hmm.
enterprise level to consumer level to, SSH server. And all these are just like different types of interfaces. And at the end of the day, especially as engineering, you always want to find the most efficient language to get the most efficient thing across. So I think it's kind of, there is some narrow scope for maybe the truth of what this person is also seeing. But in the broader sense, I actually think there's going to be an explosion of languages.
Yeah.
Kind of quite the contrary, because we're going to want something that's more efficient. Like you're looking at something right now with linear. It's possible that that's more token efficient than using JSON, right?
Right.
Until someone comes up with a new language model or something, or LLM that can do more efficiencies around that. It's just kind of my theory, and just observations for things. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can get behind what you're saying because I also think that there's going to be an explosion of just the number of large language models that we have that are all very useful because they're specialized. Like you said, with programming languages becoming specialized. So I suppose that really like just drawing a parallel there, that makes sense. So that is interesting. Scott said maybe every developer will have their own language at some point, like however we want to work with our coding assistant. As long as there's a way that the coding assistant can actually understand that new language as well as it understands like Python, for example. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
there's going to
pretty
be a
funny
million
how
ways to get
people
there.
say, "Oh, that app is just a, API wrapper around XYZ." And then
Yeah.
like you've seen those memes where they go all the way back where like everything's just a wrapper around the C, actual C programming language, like
Yep.
Java
Yep.
and everything else is sitting on top of C. So it's like Python, it keeps going back down to these like machine level languages. And, you
Hmm.
know, eh, I get it. There's like an origin and everything kind of evolves on top of that. But I mean, there is an evolution for a reason, right? It's like,
Right. Yeah.
and I think
Exactly.
this person is saying, okay, what if you just cut out all the middlemen and just go from YAP to binary? And is that the most effective too?
You
And
have to
usually,
binary.
yeah.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. The meme
Uh,
that I've seen a lot is Salesforce is just a SQL wrapper. I've heard that time and time again. But yeah, it's very, very true. Like everything is just a wrapper. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, having worked on operating systems, I could definitely say there's tooling involved in every language to help the language compile. And so whenever you're dealing with systems, especially if like for example, like the phone to the Apple Watch, right? There's actually
Hmm.
different chip architectures in which the way the binary bits get laid down onto the device. And there's timing and there's all these different components. So that's
Hmm.
just for one chip, right? And then you start to combine them into a system like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and then you have a display driver, and then they all have to like operate at a certain, in a little run loop. And so you would be thinking to assume it's the same run loop that would run on your phone, but as you start to get into the details, it's actually not. And then you also want power efficiencies too. So that's the reason why your Mac can go for so long, your phone can go for so long, and your Apple Watch can go for at least 18 hours of battery life, right? If it threw everything in from the Mac and wasn't efficient for the watch, then you wouldn't really have that long of a battery life and a Casio size thing. So, uh, while it says like it's still binary at the end of the day, these are specific languages for very specific, infrastructure for all the metal that they're sitting on too. And the language model is going to be most efficient. And as we see the context window efficiency too, you don't want to rewrite like a compiler to transpose the code to work for this thing and then do that logic thing. There's stuff that's already written and already works really beautifully to interface over one thing. And so what I'm saying also in the explosion of languages is you're going to get someone who gets so obsessed about some really specific microcontroller. And because they have AI now, they're going to write the additional things that no one else wanted to write because they're exhausted writing it because it's just too much work. But
Right.
because they know that microcontroller, now they can go even deeper than they have done before. So now you're going to have even more intelligence from existing things that people didn't know you can do, right? There's a
Right.
there's a cool video of like original iPhone running the tokenizer again. And it's like, damn, imagine if you had ChatGPT running so that is the level of coolness that you'll probably start seeing, that explosion of people going even deeper on things that maybe they overlooked before because they thought it was too hard to write by hand. But now with an assistance of a
Yeah.
language model, you can expose more hooks to the upper levels. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Stumbled across this YouTube live stream yesterday that only had like 5 viewers. It was the most random thing to get recommended to me, but it's this dude that was doing like GPU programming, like so like really really like low level C code, and he was not using a coding assistant. Like this mad lad was just going. But like to your point, Ray, like that's the kind of thing where like we can use coding assistants to build this kind of thing, like really really complex, super niche GPU programming that like most people would never even dare touch, like this live streamer. And so we can go a lot deeper. And I find myself doing that a lot as well, even where there'll be old applications I'll go to where it's like, oh yeah, I remember this thing that I cut a corner on because it's like I don't want to deal with that, and it's like really not that important, right? Like making your application just a couple of percent better. That's like, well, if I can spend 10 minutes prompting a coding assistant to do that, I might as well. And then you do that like a few times in a few of these places, and then all of a sudden your application is, 10, 20% more efficient or reliable, whatever metric it is. And I think that's really, really, that's a big deal. And like even thinking about like testing, right? Like people say like, oh, coding assistants are going to make your code bases less reliable because it's not the human touching everything. And I think that like there's some truth to that. But like one of the things that coding assistants really help you with is getting over that mental burden of like testing your code, like writing the unit integration tests. And a lot of people just default to not doing it because it's so time consuming and the gains are pretty incremental. As long as you're doing a lot of like manual and like user validation. And so, but like using a coding assistant to do that in 10 minutes, it makes it so that everyone's actually writing their unit tests and like that's built into all the workflows now.
But I like this verification loop that you're actually showing us here, is that it'll
Mm-hmm.
also pop in, like connected to an MCP. MCP
Yeah,
can launch a browser. MCP now takes instructions from the language model and tests itself like it's doing right now live. This
that's
was not
right.
planned, right?
Yep. Yep.
That's
Perfect timing.
crazy. I
Yeah.
love seeing that automation. That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And so
Whoa.
like this would be kind of like a part of the integration testing that I was talking about. But it's, yeah, it's like the kind of thing like even like browser automation. It's clicking through all these different user journeys that you're just not going to test yourself when
Okay.
you're doing all these little feature implementations, you know.
How soon until we get this harness running in a McDonald's for like 24 hours? Like, think about this, right? We have Gemini Vision, and it will take a look every 10 frames of like something that's cooking or something like that, or some type of
Hmm.
quality control metric. It'll feed back into the loop and then start kicking off other processes. You introduce robotics into the mix. Now you have this like autonomous
Yes.
thing. I mean, I want people to
Yep.
start really
Yep.
cooking on these ideas. Like, it's not only just for software code, it's
Right.
inputs and outputs. You can plug in physical things. MCP servers are that extra connector that you don't have to write code for. Now you can even write your own MCP to feed back that loop from the camera to other robotic systems that can feed back. And then you have something like linear that can track something. So you can track, you can organize your linear project to say, okay, these are urgent issues. These are timely things. These are
Hmm.
the back burner. I still have a backlog of other things that it's called out, but I still need to get to. So now as a human, you're sort of either reorganizing tasks or have an agent to hand that off for you. So many possibilities. It's so cool.
Yes. Yeah. It's very cool. And yeah, what you said, actually, a couple of people have told me that already when they saw my video on Wednesday. They're like, wait a second, this could be way more than just coding. Because yeah, like the context problem is a problem that we have for any kind of long running task. It's just coding happens to be the most common use case where you have these very long running tasks, but it can't even be like deep research, for example. You could apply this to deep research, um, or
I love
maybe
this
like,
comment from Scott.
yeah,
Ray loves cooking. Yes, I do.
yep. Do you like cooking like actual food, Ray, or is it just cooking with ideas?
For me, I'm like, I have celiac disease, so I'm actually starting to explore more cooking stuff because I want really good tasting food without like the compromise. And so, it's
Nice.
always very risky to go out to a restaurant with cross contamination because a
Hmm.
lot of people really aren't paid enough to care. Like they're just
Yeah,
paid enough
yeah.
to just do their job, and I get that too, and I respect that. And so I just have to treat my health, as a top priority. And so yeah, I've been kind of trying to like learn recipes and to get different cookbooks and like just trying to figure out like how do I get flavor? And I think it's become a whole like chemistry job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. What's your
Wow.
what's your favorite meal right now?
Oh, right now. Okay, so I have a couple. So I'm obsessed with pizza. And so before
Nice,
I found out I had
nice.
celiac disease, I actually went to New York and did a whole pizza tour. So
Ooh,
yeah, if you haven't
wow.
done a pizza tour, there's this company, I think his name's Scott's Pizza Tours. He's probably somewhat famous now, or he's blown up several times because of people discovering him.
Hmm.
And so he takes you to the origins of pizza and how it came from like Italy in some way, and like what they did in New York at this specific place where, like in the 20s, where it was kind of invented. And then takes you kind of through that process all throughout different places, like different styles from square style and other influences, and all in New York and Brooklyn. So you take a little bus, like a yellow bus you get into, It's so cool. I highly recommend people check it out, especially if you fly to New York. It's a piece of history, and me being obsessed with pizza is kind of
Nice.
a really cool thing. So you get to like try different sauces and meats and flavors, and even shows you how to like actually cut a pizza, which is I thought was really cool. And there's these
Hmm.
different tools to cut them. There's like these little micro techniques, but that's kind of one of them. I think pizza is kind of one of my most favorites right now. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Pizza, you can never go wrong with pizza. And actually, my favorite flavor of pizza is pesto. Like with
Ooh,
tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes, basil, pesto, and mozzarella cheese. It is so good. And
yum.
yeah, so have you guys heard of or Ray, have you heard of the green egg before? It might be more of like
Yes.
a United States thing for those of you watching around the globe,
Oh,
but yeah, my parents make green egg pizza. So it's like really, really, really thin crust. And we do like basil, pesto pizza, and like s'more pizza,
I never
peanut
thought
butter and
about it, but it
jelly.
makes so much sense, right?
Hmm.
Because you can control it so well. And it's
Hmm.
basically this giant egg shaped thing. For those who are
Yeah,
kind of wondering, it's almost
egg
looks
grill.
like it's like an outdoor crock pot.
Yeah, yep.
I don't know. Is
Oh,
crock pot a
it's
US thing too? I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I think so.
Well,
Yeah. Crock pot is like you throw everything into it, and like 8 hours
right.
later, you can have a beautiful like soup and vegetables and all the stuff. It just tastes amazing. If you throw meat in there, it just gets so tender. It's so ridiculous. So yeah.
Yeah,
Making
okay, we
everyone
got.
hungry right now.
Yeah, right. I was just gonna say we gotta stop talking about food because I'm getting hungry. Oh man, yeah, I haven't eaten for a bit here, so
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Why is this turned
yeah.
into a cooking show? Yeah, bro. I thought you knew, bro. This is like secretly a cooking show. We do the AI for the cookings.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be another good live stream. Ray and I just randomly show up at a kitchen together cooking, and you think that's gonna be AI. We'll clickbait you guys. It'll be like some title where it's like revealing brand new AI workflow. This is AGI, and then you
Yeah,
click
right.
in, and we're just like making our beef. Nice.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I think we're coming up at the 2 hour mark. I think a lot of people have had a lot of questions, and we've gotten to basically see the automated process here. For those who are
Yeah.
wondering, if you're kind of just stepping in, we are going to have timestamps for this, so you can actually go back, and the agents are basically running autonomously. So this is the effective harness for long-running agents from the Engineering at Anthropic blog, and that's what Cole has basically been able to institute here. He's added some tweaks to it, which is really really interesting. So he took the repo, forked it, and then added this part where you can do linear. And so with linear, you can track the progress of these agents through MCP tool calls. And that's part of the instruction set. And earlier we covered the architecture for what this looks like for those who are wondering, and how the agent can go in this feedback loop of like doing this massive feature here. So we have the app spec that feeds in to the initializer agent and this little loop here of how it creates stuff. And the thing that we're solving here is basically the effective context window. So you can't just flood it in with a massive plan and just say go. In order to do this really artfully and actually with a lot of detail, is to kind of split these off into these little sections. And that's kind of where it's interesting. As a human, you can watch it in linear, take that one specific task, have the context window in essence cleared out, work on that really effectively, and then move on to the next task and hand that off. And it's really cool, and it's given us tons of ideas for these agentic workflows that we could institute, from literally, operating a McDonald's for 24 hours to, making a video game for 24 hours. And I have now gotten so inspired. So I'm planning to take his repo, and in the next day or two, I'm gonna just kick off a live stream. I'm gonna do this
All
live
right.
myself, and maybe I'll do something fun. Can it make like a video game, and then make it interactive with the live stream, so that people can comment in the live stream, and then like the game will play itself with the agent like
Oh, no
updating and
way.
making the
That
game, bro. Yeah.
that'd be so cool.
Yeah, because why
Oh,
not, right? I mean, I
yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
anything I want.
Let's go.
Yeah, so I think that's what it is, and we appreciate everyone who's just kind of been able to tune in and hang out with us for this, experimental stream here, and we're kind of checking things out. We're at the forefront of this technology, so ladies and gentlemen, don't be afraid of if you see this and it's way over your head or too complicated. Please kind of take a second step here and try to maybe go with us. I know I will be going live. Cole actually has his own community as well. So if you haven't had a chance, I'll let Cole talk about that. So how you can join
Yeah.
his community, because there's a bunch of folks in there who are super dedicated, who are working on this stuff all the time. And Cole's just dropping gems left and right all over his YouTube channel. So definitely we'll check that out. So Cole, I'll let you talk more about your community and stuff.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Ray, and thank you for the awesome recap. He
Yeah.
really nailed what we've covered today and the key takeaways too. So yeah, I'll just call out really quickly the community here. I'll put a link in the chat as well to Dynamous. But if you guys are interested in these things and you really want to stay on the forefront and the cutting edge, that's what the Dynamous community is for. And so a lot of what I do on YouTube, I just go even deeper in the community with weekly workshops. I have the new agentic coding course that was just released, helping you think about how you can build your own systems for reliable and repeatable AI coding, which is a big thing that a lot of people are looking to solve. And so yeah, really excited that actually Rasmus has been putting a lot of messages in the chat. He and I have worked on this course together, and we finished it. We did like all the recording and editing and stuff in like a month and a half. It was an absolute grind, but it turned out really, really well. So this is where like a lot of the things that I've been explaining in the stream, like the piv loop and validation and how we can evolve our own system, like I go into that in a lot of detail and help you apply it to your own projects in the course. And so that's one of the core parts of the community. So yeah, that's where I'm dedicating a lot of my time. Like this and my YouTube channel is where I'm dedicating most of my time these days. And just the amount of gems, like yeah, like I give a lot to the community as well, but just other people like sharing their own projects and ideas and research. It's just insane the amount of ideas that come out of the community, like literally every single day. So yeah, definitely check out Dynamous if you're interested in being a part of that and you like the energy that we've got here too. So yeah, I'm definitely like always experimenting with the latest and greatest things like this.
That's super amazing, man. Like, yeah, I think this is probably a good point to wrap up for those, right at the 2 hour mark here, top of the hour. This project's probably going to keep going. And, Cole has that VIP access. He can slide into the DMs. We've got this like long running tasks and we'll see. Maybe he gets rate limited, maybe not. You'll have to stay tuned and find out. Stay subscribed.
Right. Yeah. There we go. The next task is done. So I did 10 out of 37 in our stream here, and yeah, I think we did like maybe an hour and 15, hour and a half that is actually running, and so like it'll probably be able to complete this entire thing within 24 hours because I did reduce it to 50 or I guess 47 instead of 200 or
Wow.
57. So yeah, like it'll probably get through the whole thing by the end of the day here.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Thank you so much for sharing this workflow. This is, man, like I'm gonna get some food and I'm just gonna like start getting back into this
All
and start
right.
playing around. This
Let's
is
go.
way too good, and we'll have some more questions. So I think it'd be fun to kind of do some other live streams again, and we'll probably cover
Yeah.
like some follow ups to this or different topics and things. And let us know what you all want to see because I feel like we're kind of at the edge of this thing, and there's so much going on. And if you have any topics that you would like us to cover or like us to see or learn more about, definitely drop it in the comments, drop it in whatever you're seeing. So if you're watching this later and you're watching this as a replay, we will read through all the comments and want to
Yeah.
get that feedback back for you. So yeah, that's what's up.
Sweet. Yeah, yeah. Ray and I always go through all of our comments. So yeah, definitely. And yeah, it'd be fun to do another live stream, like taking this even further, or just whatever else is new and what I know that like you guys should be paying attention to. And I don't know if it's the same for you, Ray, but like one of the main jobs that I see for myself is to cut through the fluff for all of you and present the things that are actually worth paying attention to. And I just assume that that's kind of how you see it as well, Ray, because I can tell from your content that's what you do for people, and it's a really valuable thing. So I work hard every single day to make sure that I'm researching everything and condensing it down. Like, here are the things we should care about, like this kind of workflow. Like when Anthropic released this article, that again, this drove everything for today. Like I just knew, like, all right, this deserves a lot of attention and sharing it with you all.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what I also want to do is I'm going to drop your YouTube link channel here because somebody was asking for it.
Yeah,
And let me put
I
this
can
on
do
the
the same
screen.
for you too. So
Yeah.
I have the link to your YouTube channel in the description of the live stream already, but I'll go ahead and put it in the chat as well if you guys want to check out Ray. He does a lot of cool content around AI coding and workflows, a lot of the kind of like same vein that I explore a lot in my content, but it's just also really cool that like it's quite different in the end. Even the tools that we use, like, oh man, I wish we had time to talk about Factory more
Oh
today,
yeah.
because Factory is the coding agent that Ray prefers, and I use Claude Code. He uses different MCP servers like Ref and Exa.
Hmm.
I've got my Archon open source project, but it's
Yeah.
like in the end, we do a
Yeah.
lot of the same stuff, just using different tools, which I mean, that's an important thing to kind of end the stream off here is like all of this is really agnostic to the specific tool. even this entire harness, like I talked about a bit earlier, we could use a totally different coding assistant. We can change the prompts however we need. We could use the Jira or Notion MCP server instead of Linear. Like, we're not tied to any specific tool for any of this, any specific LLM. We can take these ideas of prompting strategies and harness strategies and apply it to whatever we want for coding and beyond.
Yeah, and I'm interested in checking this out for like Claude skills. And a lot of people have talked about the front end designer that I need to check out. I'm still kind of behind on that. I'm interested in bootstrapping my agents to learn skills. So maybe if they learn a skill on the fly, can they document it themselves and kind of
Hmm.
build up on like that type of thing? Yeah, we have so much more to talk about. So stay tuned. I think this is just
Yeah,
going to be more to come, ladies and gentlemen.
that's right.
That'll be pretty
Cool.
cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Ray, for doing this. This was an absolute blast. Look forward to doing it more in the future as well. Hope that you guys all enjoyed that. And yeah, I think it'd be a good time to wrap things up if you agree here.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here and drop the comments below. Let us know what you want to see next. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, do all the good things. Thumbs up for the algo. And we'll see you all on the next stream, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out.
All right.